Hey, Mohammed. Thanks for reaching out with your question on mentoring men. I greatly appreciate your interest and your trust in asking us for this feedback. And so what I want to do is just acknowledge your question first by repeating it. And then I want to share just the insights that come up for me as I read it, as I've been pondering it. So I'm going to read it. It's off camera here just a little bit, and I want to make sure I get it right. And then we'll talk about kind of what's behind this, right? You said on your question, how do I show up as a confident and trustworthy man, a trustworthy and loyal man to my wife in spite of all the shame for my past betrayal and the trauma that she's living through as a result? And Muhammad, guys ask this, some flavor of this question all the time, and it's really just, how do I deal with my past and the shame it causes me when I face my wife and I see the impact of the choices I've made in my past on her? And that's a tough thing that every man will face. I know from experience that you probably feel less than most men. You probably are carrying around this exceptional level of self-abasement that you're somehow like a worst case scenario because of your wife's hurt. And I want to first encourage you that you're not actually experiencing what you think you are. You're not actually experiencing merely the fact that you hurt your wife. You're actually experiencing just shame in general. And shame, just to be clear, I'm not always talking about the emotion of shame. In fact, it may be emotionless. But when we talk about shame, what we mean is that we're encountering some form of internal comparison or judgment, that the decree, the judgment at the end of that is that I do not measure up. And specifically, that I am somehow thus a bad thing, that I'm some sort of less than or a mistake. And so really, in reality, what's causing you the pain is that you're looking at your wife through a lens of shame. You think what you're seeing is her disappointment in you, but what you're seeing in reality, brother, is your disappointment in you. And so to answer your question, how do I actually stand in front of her as a confident man and trustworthy and loyal? You actually have to fix that thing I'm talking about. You see, you can't actually be self-confident and trustworthy and loyal to someone else if you don't know yourself to be that way to you. And so all of the work we do with men is really fixing that. It's an inside game. Because if you're a man that struggles with shame and a low sense of self, you're looking through a lens of a low sense of self and shame at everything in the world. And when that lens is directed at the face of your partner, you think you're seeing her disappointment, but you're actually just seeing through the lens of your own disappointment in yourself. And so really all of your question boils down to, in reality, if we distill it to its essential truth, how do I trust me again? Because shame is really eroding a man's sense of trust. He can't trust himself because at the fundamental level, he doesn't believe he's a good thing, right? So like if I handed you a pair of dice and I said, I want you to bet your marriage on what dice these, what numbers get rolled. You know that, hey, sometimes, I get snake eyes. Sometimes I get a pair of sixes. Sometimes I get 3. But you have no idea what you're rolling in the dice. And when you are a man that thinks that some part of you might be terrible, you kind of have this crapshoot idea of like, well, I have no idea who I'm going to be today because I believe part of me is bad and that might come out today. I might roll a terrible number. And if I roll a terrible number, then all bets are off. I have nothing to offer. I'm an untrustable man. And so we have to fix this kind of randomness that exists within a man where he has no idea who he is. And because he's uncertain of the composition of his inner self, and specifically the nature and quality of it, then he can't actually trust that in a moment of need. And so shame is insidious this way. Shame is really undermining everything in a man's life because it makes you treat your internal experience like you're Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, and who knows which one will come out today, right? I should have just used that metaphor to begin with. The dice metaphor is kind of dumb. Sorry. So I can't get into that in the video, how we actually address shame, because that is some deeper work, as you know. That is the work we address in our larger mentoring experience called the Journey to Masculine Greatness, specifically in the first quarter, which we, in our first 6-month course, we call the Renewed Masculine Man. It's all about rooting out this lens of shame and other things and learning to get the shame out of that lens so we can see ourselves clearly and we can have a renewed sense of self. Because when we have a renewed sense of self, we can trust self. That is the basis for confidence. Confidence is only as good as what you place your confidence in. And see, if you think your self is not very good, you have no basis for self-confidence. And if you have no basis for self-confidence, a partner has no capacity to trust you. Why would they? You can't even trust you. And so all of this is about addressing that. And that's, in my experience, not something we address by books. We don't need more information. We need transformation. And so on Mentoring Men, that's what we're about. We're about transformative mentoring experiences for men that are essentially relationship-based. That's why we're not coaches, but mentors, meaning we walk men through really hard experiences, specifically guiding them to these vantage points where they can see something like, hey, there's my shame. I see it clearly now. I see why I feel this way, and I see how to fix it. And so I want to just encourage you on that journey to keep going, right? It's going to be painful getting down into the weeds of your insides and locating what that shame is about. But once you do, and once you learn to see yourself clearly, all this stuff with your wife will take care of itself. I know that sounds like a big promise right now, but you can ask your brothers in Mentoring Men who have encountered this, how that's working for them. And I think they'll give you a good report of that. Really, our view of self is what's undermining us here. And so I want to encourage you in the meantime, just hang in there, keep going. As your sense of self improves, so will your ability to stand with confidence in front of your wife and no longer feel like you've let her down, because you will have healed that wound. You'll feel like a trustworthy, loyal man, and she will reciprocate that to you in your life by also trusting you. So I hope that's resonated with you. I hope you're getting something out of this, and I certainly look forward to any follow-up you might have. If this video was not made specifically for you, and you're another man watching this video and you're saying, man, this is just hitting me right between the eyes. This guy's under my couch or in my walls. I want to invite you to go further than just that feeling. I want you to scroll down, and you'll see in the video description, there'll be a link where you can set up a call with myself or one of the mentors on Mentoring Men. We would love to talk to you about your lens, about what's going on for you. Where are you hung up because you're having a hard time trusting yourself because of this pervasive sense that there's something wrong with you. We all actually lived there. We created this organization and this community because we escaped that, and it was it was the most liberating experience for me. And so we wake up every day to walk men through that experience. If that rings a bell with you, we want to talk to you. So click the link below. It'll set up a free call with us. We won't try to sell you anything. We'll just have a talk with you. We'll find out more about what's going on, hear about your story, offer you some encouragement, and then wish you farewell. And so to do that, though, you have to request a consultation with us. And that link is below. With that, I wish you a good day, and I'll see you soon. Take care.